Good afternoon. Welcome to the September 2nd meeting of the Murrieta City Council is now called to order. Madam City Clerk, will you please do roll call?
Councilmember DeForest.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle. Mayor Warren.
Here.
Let the record reflect all members are present with the exception of Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle with an excused absence.
Thank you very much. Madam City Clerk, would you please go over the closed session agenda and also if there are any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the agenda for closed session is CS1, Conference with the Labor Negotiators. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 with the City Manager, Assistant City Manager, City Attorney, and the City's negotiators regarding labor negotiations with the Murrieta Supervisors Association and Management, Professional, and Confidential Group. CS2, Conference with Legal Counsel, Existing Litigation. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 to confer with the City Manager and Legal Counsel regarding one litigation case, Harstead et al. v. City of Murrieta, case number CRVI 2402383, Riverside County Superior Court. CS3, Conference with Real Property Negotiators. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to enable the City Council to consider negotiations and to give directions to its negotiators regarding that certain real property located at the northwest corner of Linnell Lane and Whitewood Road, Murrieta, Riverside County, California at APN 392-290-048 with the California Department of Housing and Community Development and KNE Real Estate. The city's property negotiators, the city manager, assistant city manager, economic development director, and the city attorney will seek direction from the City Council regarding that price and terms of this property. CS4, Conference with Real Property Negotiations. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to enable the City Council to consider negotiations and to give direction to its negotiators regarding that certain real property located at APN 906-670-004 with David Gonzalez and Jensen Kurolf. The city's real property negotiators, the city manager, economic development director, and city attorney will seek direction from the City Council regarding the price and terms for this property. CS5, Conference with the Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2 because there is significant exposure to litigation for one case. CS6, Conference with Real Property Negotiators. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to enable the City Council to consider negotiations and to give directions to its negotiators regarding a portion that certain real property known as 24712 Via Silva, Murrieta, CA 92562 with Karush Kaligi and Parvin Kaligi, trustees, the city's real property negotiators, the city manager, assistant city manager, economic development director, public works director, and city attorney will seek direction from the City Council regarding the price and terms for this property. And finally, CS7, Public Employee Performance Evaluation. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B to conduct an employee evaluation concerning the city manager, and there are no public comments.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to recess into closed session. We will reconvene at 6 p.m. for our regular meeting. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to call to order the September 2nd regular meeting of the Murrieta City Council. Madam City Attorney, would you please provide a report for closed session? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on 7 items. The first was to confer with the labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. On this item, the Council was updated, asked questions, no reportable action. The second item was to confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigation in the matter of Harstead versus City of Murrieta. In this item, the Council was also updated, asked questions, and gave advice on litigation strategy, no reportable action. The third item was to confer with real property negotiators regarding the property at the northwest corner of Linnell Lane. The Council was updated, no reportable action. The next item was also real property negotiations. Again, the Council was provided an update and gave direction to staff, no reportable action. Also on that item, Councilmember Stone recused herself from the closed session because of a conflict of interest. She owns property near the property being discussed. On the fifth item regarding anticipated litigation, the council was updated and asked questions, no reportable action. On the sixth item was another real property negotiation. On this item, the council was updated, gave direction to staff on information needed to move forward. The last item was a public employee performance evaluation concerning the city manager. The council discussed the performance evaluation and gave feedback to the city manager. No reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. Madam City Clerk, would you please do roll call?
Councilmember DeForest.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle. Mayor Warren.
Here.
Let the record reflect all members are present with the exception of Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle with an excused absence.
Thank you very much. At this time, if you are able, ask you to please rise, remove your hats, and our City Clerk is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For those that are able, please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Please stand while we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you that we can gather together in a free country and discuss the business of the city. We ask that you open our hearts and minds to your will for Murrieta, the great place that we call home. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Council Member. At this time, we were going to have a presentation from the Susan G. Komen More Than Pink Walk. However, unfortunately, the representative from the organization was unable to attend due to a family matter, so staff will work on having them rescheduled. At this time, I'd like to have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilmember DeForest and a second. Oh, we have a voting problem over here. And a second by Councilmember Holliday. Please vote when you're able.
Motion carries unanimously 4-0.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask our city manager, Mr. Justin Clifton, for his update.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I do have a few items this evening. First, we've had a really nice trend lately of being able to announce contributions to our children's library expansion project, and today is a little bit of a unique and special one. So if you wouldn't mind, Mayor, would you please do the honor of introducing the donation for this evening?
It would be my pleasure. I understand there's a young lady who is 6 years old who held 2 lemonade stands. And through the gracious donations of this wonderful community, her family and friends, I'd like to invite Miss Emma Warren Orick and her dad, Kyle Warren, to the podium.
I raised
$1,300
for
the Murrieta Library Foundation.
the Murrieta Foundation.
And I want to say thank you.
Thank you to all the people that come to my lemonade stand.
Very good.
Thank you so much. How about a round of applause for her? Wait a minute. Miss Emma, would it be okay if I bring the Library Foundation president down and the representative, and we all come down and take a picture with you presenting the check? Would that be okay? Is that all right with everybody? Thank you.
Here.
Yeah, go ahead. You guys do first. Would you like to take one with all of us now? Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And $1,300 is impressive, but as one that got to taste both the cookies and the lemonade, worth every penny. Second, I'd like to share with council a little bit about a special program. So most people at the dais are probably familiar, and some in the community understand certainly the traditional criminal justice system. But we also participate in a youth court program that is an alternative to that criminal justice system for our juveniles. And it's a great program that I got to learn about a little bit recently. Haven't gotten to witness it yet, but intend to do so soon. And so to say a little more about this and help both the council and the community understand some of the really good work that we're doing that you might not know about, Matt Mazingo, a corporal with Murrieta PD, is here to talk a little bit about the program and how it works. So please, Corporal.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time this evening. Several of you have actually seen youth court in action. So, but ultimately, the mission of the Southwest Valley Youth Court is to prevent. It's a prevention and diversion program that allows our teens an alternative sentencing method to address juvenile offenses. The objective is to allow our teens to be helped by other teens, allowing them to become productive community members through restorative justice. And we'll cover real quick what that means. So our program's approximately 19 years old. We joined Temecula, who started the program with a grant. So in 2006, through 2008, the program was run with a grant. 2007, Murrieta City Council joined, approved the Murrieta Police Department, and we ultimately joined forces with Temecula and started the Southwest Valley Youth Court. In 2020, the Southwest Youth Court was suspended for approximately 3.5 years because of COVID. 2023, we spearheaded bringing the youth court back with the intention of expanding the youth court and inviting the Menifee Police Department and City of Menifee to participate as well. So this is our opening night in June of 2023. Traditionally, we don't have a youth court session in June because we don't like to compete with graduation. And we would usually not compete with graduation, and we usually would have some other things, but I was a little anxious to get it going, so we ended up having June 2023. So next. So we have a variety of different roles for our volunteers. Our youth volunteers actually our defense attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, jurors, and then our police explorers operate as the security for the facility, in addition to being the bailiffs at the location. It is held at the Southwest Justice Center, so it's held in a true courthouse and a court setting. Our youth from all three cities come from a variety of different locations. You can see that there's approximately 30 to 35 schools represented through all the cities. We had more than 300 volunteers in the past 2 years. And then we have our adult volunteers. And so our adult volunteers include our Superior Court judges. We've had 14 different judges that have overseen and sat on 24 different youth court sessions over the past 2 years. We have our attorney mentors. So those attorney mentors are our adult mentors that would assist our youth attorneys, and they would give opening and closing arguments and assist our youth attorneys in preparing opening and closing arguments and statements. And then we have our our jury coordinators. Our jury coordinators are primarily law enforcement officers through Murrieta and Menifee and RSO, or Temecula. And then we also have our volunteer case managers. Volunteer case managers assist in basically ensuring that the kids do what they're supposed to do and making sure that they complete their contract for youth court. So in 2023 through 2024, the fiscal year, we had 63 cases, 68 minors in those cases. So 68 kids were actually represented in those 63 cases. We had a total of 5 volunteer case managers. 7 officers had been cross-trained between the cities of actually Murrieta and Temecula to assist in coordination in running youth court with management day to day. And then we had 12 different youth court sessions. As I said, we normally don't do June, but we had June that year. And then 24 to 25, this past fiscal year, we had a total of 53 cases with 53 minors having their cases disposed, allowing these cases not to go forward with criminal charges. Total of 8 volunteer case managers, 9 officers cross-trained, and 9 officers and deputies cross-trained, including Menifee that was brought in on this past fiscal year, and then 10 youth court sessions because we had January dark because of the power outage, and then we had June dark, which would normally be because of our banquet and our graduation. This is my last youth court, this last past month. So you can see Councilmember Holliday was there with me, and this is just the attorneys that were there. So as you can see, there was plenty of attorneys, so they were doubled up for cases that day. So one would do opening argument, one would do closing argument for that day. So what are the sentencing? The sentencing isn't meant about discipline or isn't meant about punishment. It's based on restorative justice, and so restorative justice is really about helping them make better decisions. So community service, oral or written apologies, essays, my personal favorites like a life plan essay, trying to address issues or what they want to do in life and where they want to go. They're required to do jury duty, which allows them to become part of the decision-making, curfew conditions if necessary, and then educational workshops, victim awareness, alcohol, drug counseling, anger management if necessary. And I'll play a little video which will describe it better than probably I just did.
What is youth court? It's more than a courtroom. It's a second chance, a conversation, a community. It's where young people hold each other accountable and help one another grow. Youth court is a peer-led diversion program for first-time juvenile offenders. Instead of facing juvenile hall, teens take on the roles of prosecution, defense, bailiff, and jury. They work together to promote restorative justice, a process that focuses on repairing harm, not simply punishing mistakes. A typical youth court session begins with the jury and judge entering the courtroom.
If you agree, please say, I do. I do.
The attorneys, made up of student volunteers, introduce themselves and present the facts of the case. The jury, made up of other teens, asks questions to understand what happened, why the offense occurred, and what harm was caused.
Is this your first time being here for petty theft?
It's not about blame. It's about responsibility, reflection, and repair. After hearing from the respondent, the jury deliberates. Their job? To recommend fair and meaningful consequences. Things like community service, apology letters, reflection essays, or attending workshops.
Apology letter?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay, so apology letter to the store, perhaps?
If the respondent completes these requirements, their case is closed. No criminal conviction, no permanent record. Just a chance to learn from their mistake and move forward. And the impact doesn't stop there. Many who once stood as respondents later return as volunteers, ready to help the next person make a better choice. That's the power of restorative justice. That's the heart of Youth Court. And every summer, Youth Court participants from across California gather for the California Association of Youth Courts Summit. It's a time to connect, share ideas, and build the next generation of restorative justice leaders. Youth Court gives teens a voice, a purpose, and a second chance. Join us. Lead change. Be the difference.
Thank you.
I think we have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Councilmember Holliday?
Not so much questions. I just wanted to personally thank you for inviting me to the youth court that I went to last month. I mistakenly, in my governing body announcements, said it was the third Thursday of the month. It's actually the second Thursday of the month. Everyone here does not know that this is your last week. One of our shining stars that works for the Murrieta Police Department and have started and maintained a lot of amazing programs, including Youth Court, but also started and won awards for our Police Citizens Academy that you attended. The last one was last week, I believe. But since I don't know all of your accomplishments, I would like to have Captain Durant come up and share some of those with the audience, if he would. Because I know how much you like this.
I hate it.
I think you brought an album.
No.
Pictures? No?
He said he wasn't doing this. He lied to me.
Well. Oh, he brought backup.
I'd love the opportunity to brag about Matt real quick. He's a very humble man. He definitely does not take credit for where credit's due. Our department, we have a very solid reputation with our community for partnership, and it's because of the actions that from Matt Mazingo that gives us that reputation. I came here in 2006, and he had already established himself as one of the most proactive police officers in our department. He takes that same drive and dedication to everything he does. In my perspective, two of his most biggest impacts have been in strengthening the relationship with our community and also in the juvenile youth programs. Citizen Academy, like we mentioned, he is solely responsible for bringing that to our department. He himself brought that here and got it to where it was today. They just started the 20th session, like we said, and built hundreds of relationships with our community members and showed them behind the scenes what we do at our department. Also, the Police Athletic League, he's done a lot of work with them and was recently named by the National PAL organization as the National Peace Officer of the Year for their organization. And that was in Memphis, Tennessee. We went to go see him recognized for that. He currently is assigned to the School Resource Officer program and works closely with the school district. Lots of training programs and mentorship that he does with the school district. On top of that, he also works with the Safe Family Justice Center. He's made such an impression there, they actually created an award named after him. The Mazingo Legacy Award was just created, I think, last year, and given for people who recognize officers who embody this true spirit of the Police Athletic League. So Matt Mazingo made such an impact that they created an award after him. And then lastly, the Youth Court, like you mentioned, he put in there that Murrieta PD spearheaded it. No, Corporal Mazingo spearheaded it. He brought the program back from the ashes and got it to where it was today, and it impacted hundreds of kids over the years. It's a very, very beneficial youth diversion program. So when we talk about in partnership with our community and our mission statement, it's because of the actions of Corporal Matthew Mazingo that we can stand proudly behind that.
Thank you.
I think you just said it all. I mean, you took all my bullet points. I wasn't ready for this. No, I would just like to thank Matt for everything that he has done. I know this wasn't, I mean, you came here to present, but it's my last opportunity to kind of tell you how grateful we are as a city, as a police department, as a community for the work that you've done here for over 20 years. I said it at the Citizens Academy when Councilmember Holliday was here. The Academy is what it is because of you. Youth Court is what it is because of the hard work that you've put in and the partnerships that you've joined. So again, on behalf of the department, the city, and the community, thank you for everything you've done, and I look forward to your retirement.
Thank you.
We're done with questions, right?
Dr. DeForest?
Thank you.
How can I top what was just said about you? But I'd just like to say thank you for being so connected to our community and really bringing the community to actually see what a police officer experiences every day with the Citizens Academy. And to actually restorative justice for our youth and for a second chance, and by peers. So they'll never forget it. They'll never do it again,
Yeah,
right?
thank you.
So thank you for everything. I wish you a very happy retirement.
Thank you.
And I hope you have passed the torch or baton to somebody that.
I think there's a few somebodies, yes.
All right. Well, it's going to take more than one
Yeah.
to fill your shoes, sir. So thank you for everything.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Stone?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Matt, I want to thank you for stepping up when I brought forward A Day in Her Shoes, and we highlighted peace officers on the ground and having those 2 volunteers that had absolutely no idea what it was going to be like for them to have a day in the shoes of a peace officer. Your customer service has been impeccable. Such a support system to council, to your colleagues, and especially to this community. And what was said here today was about your strength and definitely about your legacy. Your legacy is about quality of life, and you brought that to the city of Murrieta. And we're all so proud of what you've demonstrated. And I hope that those that are below you will look to you and continue as a mentor moving forward. Don't go away. We still want you to be part of this community. And thank you so much for your years of dedication and your out-of-the-box thinking. Thank you so much, and God bless, and wish you the very best in your retirement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you.
Ditto, ditto, ditto. And I know he would ditto, 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 ditto too, but I think you're an amazing man, amazing officer. Your respect and dedication to this community goes beyond just being an officer. You're a gentleman, and this city is so grateful for all you have done, and that includes myself and my family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go enjoy your retirement, but please don't go far, because I'm sure someone is going to need to ask you a question here or there.
Yeah.
So make sure you hang around. You are going to be missed very much, and I'm so grateful for your friendship. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
I think you're still up, City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That really is, that's really fun. You don't often get to recognize somebody who has more contributions than can be counted. So it's really fantastic. Those who have spent a few minutes speaking with Corporal Mazingo understand the passion that he brings. For those that haven't, look no further than the fact that on the doorstep of retirement, when he could be kind of coasting and doing his own thing, he's here talking about the programs that he helps run. So really special to recognize him. A couple more updates. I apologize for being a little long-winded tonight, but a couple more that are important. One, last week, Scott Agajanian, our Economic Development Director, and I accompanied Mayor Warren and Councilmember Stone to Sacramento, where we were on another lobbying trip. This has become a little bit of a trend lately. So more than, let's see, a month or two ago, we had a regional trip where our delegates, as well as those representing cities all across Southwest Riverside County, went to Sacramento to talk about the conflicts between some of the state's housing policy and transportation policies. This time, similar but different, we were up to talk about the conflict between the state's housing policies and some of its economic development goals. So we have had a lot of frustrating experiences, and we've heard a lot from our residents about frustration with the pace of housing development, and especially some of the entitlements granted to multifamily developments that have come in large numbers over the last number of years, where the state has really taken control from local communities. But beyond that, we have had ongoing conversations and I think struggles with the Department of Housing and Community Development about some of their interpretations of those rules, and including what the city does with its own property. So we took a trip to try to discuss some of this with a department that we thought would really understand what we were talking about, which was the Economic Development Group, so that we could help them understand that in some cases, okay, we understand you want to have lots of housing, but when it starts to get in the way of economic development and really building the kind of community where people want to live and stay and grow their families and grow their business, that we need some change. So it was a very productive meeting. I think our voices are being heard more than ever, thanks in large part to our elected leaders that I'm sure will expound a little bit on this in their report, but really had a very effective and productive trip. It's a commitment. I think we were all up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning to catch a flight early and come back the same day, just to really make sure that those voices were heard, but it was effective, and we're getting great feedback. We're starting to get noticed and think that this will actually lead to some change. So very productive event there. And again, welcome you guys to talk about that a little more in your reports. I also want to mention that on tonight's consent agenda is an update on the council priorities. So for those that don't know, we organize those priorities in 3 tiers. I think we have a slideshow on that as well. This is really a receive and file for you this evening, council, but I just wanted to highlight that we are getting a lot of things done, which is great. So you will notice in your agenda this evening a report that walks you through some of our recent accomplishments. Some of these go back a little ways, but many of these are just in the last reporting period, approximately over the last 6 months. So for instance, we got the amphitheater parking lot completed. We closed escrow on a property for Fire Station 6, which we have planned for future years. We've replaced the roof at City Hall. We had our groundbreaking for the Murrieta Hot Springs widening that was long awaited. Down in the Tier 2, you have some other examples of moving forward on conceptual design. That was a little while ago for our public safety training facility, but we've done some PD improvements and remodel, some other work in Jefferson Street and Magnolia traffic signal engineering design. So the projects are moving forward. Again, thanks to council for helping us to prioritize in the beginning and then staying focused so that we can really try to make real progress on those things. You'll notice too when you see the summary document, and if you read the agenda report, based on input that we've gotten from council over the last 6 or 7 months, we have elevated some projects within the priorities document. So we have projects like Line F that was a lower tier that has moved up to Tier 1. And you'll see movement across the board. That was the intent. Projects start off kind of in the Tier 3, and then they get elevated as we program those items, as we get resources for those items. So again, a receive and file, but shows a lot of the hard work from your dedicated staff to move those things forward, and the leadership of council to help provide for us the clarity that we need on where we should be spending our time and energy. So that's it on that. Although just one more item, last but certainly not least, we want to have Christina Davies, our Public Information Officer, come up and give us a community update.
Welcome, Christina. I said welcome. Oh, caught you off guard, huh?
Well, as usual. Yes, I'm here to just talk about what's going on in Murrieta. So we have a lot going on, from ribbon cuttings, groundbreaking, construction starting. There is a lot going on. Is this on? We'll just go next slide, please. Thank you. So we're going to talk about some ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings first. So tomorrow, our senior center is celebrating 20 years. And so we're having a little celebration there. And it's going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. That's going to be at the senior center. So if you don't know where that's at 5 Town Square. And then on Thursday, we are having a groundbreaking ceremony for our children's library expansion project. And that's going to be at 10:30 at the library in the Carol Carson Gardens of Verses. Next, please. And then, since we're talking about the library, September is library card sign-up month. Now, I know people might think a library card, it's just you check out some books. Well, our library, hey, that's why we need an expansion. We have a lot going on at our library. So obviously we have books, but audiobooks, movies, as well as instruments. So there's a lot you can do with the library card. So we are encouraging people to get their library card. Next, please. And then on September 11th, we do have a tribute ceremony, and that's going to be on the 11th at 5:30 at our Town Square Park and Amphitheater. And this event really is great for us to remember, come together, and remember the unity that happened after that day. Next, please. And next, we have our City Hall Citizens Academy. So for those of you who don't know, we do have a City Hall Citizens Academy. Most are familiar with our fire and PD, but for those who participate in the City Hall Citizens Academy, you do all three and you can become an ambassador. This specific academy is a free 7-day-week program that really showcases the inner workings of City Hall to our community. And if you want to sign up for it, you can go to murrietaca.gov/Citizens Academy. Next, please. And this is always a fan favorite, bulky item drop-off. This is later on in the month, but this is on September 27th. This one is for Murrieta residents. I know we recently just had a hazardous household event that was for county residents as well as Murrieta, but this is very specific to Murrieta. So we do have information on there, what is accepted, what is not accepted. You can check our social media pages as well. We will have this information up there. Next, please. And we have State of the City coming up. Just want to do this as a reminder. State of the City is coming up on Wednesday, October 15th, and that's from the VIP reception starting at 5:30 to 6:30, and then the main address from the mayor starts at 7. This event, you can come and get some updated information on the city and as well as what we've been working on throughout the year. And last but not least, I just always remind people to stay connected. If you want to go to the next slide, it's just the end. We go to murrietaca.gov/connect, and you can get information on our social pages as well as how to stay connected with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my announcements.
Thank you very, very much. Now we're going to move on to our governing body reports, which is an opportunity, and announcements, which is an opportunity for the City Council to provide brief reports on conferences, seminars, commissions, and committees, and or board meeting attendance. Governing body announcements is the opportunity for the City Council to provide miscellaneous reports and announcements. Reports shall not exceed 5 minutes. City Clerk uses a computerized timer, Mr. Holliday. And so we will start off with Council Member DeForest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to defer mine till next meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to Council Member Holliday. No, you do not get her time.
Will you donate your time? No. Till last council meeting?
I will not.
All right. So we had, from last council meeting to this one, we had 2 Town Square Park and Amphitheater ad hoc committee meetings, which the mayor sits in on me with, and we're making great progress on that policy that we're going to bring back to council, hopefully in the not too distant future. I know the city manager was questioning me on that today, as we're actually getting anything done, but we are. And I also had a Murrieta Santa Stops committee meeting. That's moving forward. Murrieta Santa Stops is near and dear to my heart. We brought it back a couple years ago, and we've got so many volunteers that it's easier to put on now than it was before when it was all done by staff. So that's moving forward nicely, and got a lot of volunteers still coming back year after year. I did attend the Citizens Police Academy that Corporal Mozingo's last day, just to embarrass him some more. No, I just love recognizing great people that have done great things in our city, and he's one. And then I finally attended the groundbreaking for the Murrieta Creek Phase 2B, which is in Temecula. So it's Phase 1 through 4. That wasn't enough, so I had to break it into 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. 4 is all in Murrieta. 3B is part of Murrieta. Probably won't happen in my lifetime, but our assembly member, or House of Representatives, Ken Calvert, told me that he's going to do everything he can to make it happen in both he and my lifetime. So we'll see. 20 years from now, anything can be done, right? And that's all I've got.
Thank you. And in record time, too. Excellent. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The mayor and I and our city manager, the chief, Henry, and Jeff. We attended a board meeting at the Colony. A few weeks ago, I think that most of you read that there was a fatality off of Cal Oaks and Skyview, and that was due to a DUI. We wanted to reassure the colony residents that we hear them, we understand that this was devastating, and we wanted to again reassure them that our police are on the ground, they're monitoring, and they were very appreciative of our meeting. I really wanted to thank our chief and our city manager, especially our mayor and Jeff, for attending that with me. Colony, I represent the colony, but it was really nice collectively for all of us to address this issue. I attended the Rose Again Foundation fundraiser, and that fundraiser helps children that are either aging out of the foster care system or currently in the foster care system with essential needs. It was a beautiful event. I attended the ribbon cutting for the Glen Arbor Dog Park. That's off of Jackson and Nutmeg, and it's beautiful. So if you have a dog, please take your dog to the dog park. It was beautiful. So again, to our city staff, fantastic. I attended, along with my colleagues, the ribbon cutting for Murrieta Creek Phase 2B flood control. And I want to thank our Congressman Ken Calvert for the millions and millions and millions of dollars over the last 30 years that he's brought back to Murrieta Creek, and I look forward to seeing the Murrieta Creek portion of Murrieta come to fruition. Lastly, I want to thank our city manager, Justin Clifton, and our economic development director, Scott Agajani, and our mayor. As our city manager alluded, that we did fly up to Sacramento. We've been very, very proactive. Remember, not only do we hear your concerns about high-density development and traffic concerns, we're also residents too. So we feel your pain. While we're not wasting your money by frivolous lawsuits against the state of California, we are very proactive in dealing with HCD, GoBiz, the state of California, and we've been engaged with our senator and our assemblywomen as well. We are very proactive in advocating for change. As our city manager alluded, HCD is hearing us, not just Murrieta, but all cities and counties throughout the state of California. They realize that this is a debacle, and they are making changes currently how HCD will be operating in the future. So your voice and our voices are being heard. And just remember that your council members, we're residents here, and we're fighting every day, advocating for quality of life. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Stone. I'm going to start with my governing body announced reports. I attended, along with Councilmember Stone, the Southwest Riverside County Elected Leaders Collaborative. That was the first group that went up to Sacramento a few weeks ago to talk about infrastructure, traffic, what they're mandating, and the fact that they're not providing any funds to help us move our cities forward in a proper manner. Along with Holidays, Councilmember Holiday, the amphitheater, we're meeting every week. And so we are getting a lot accomplished, and we look forward to bringing a report forward soon. The Sacramento trip that Councilmember Stone and City Manager Clifton alluded to, we went up there to let them know that their unfair tactics in negotiations was not acceptable. That playing the bully was not going to work. And we really did give them an earful. And I will say that when we walked out of that meeting, they heard us. And I want to thank Justin and Scott. You were point on. Councilmember Stone, you were just amazing. And I think when we go up there and we fight for you, I think we're going to make a difference. So I was really proud of that trip. It was a long day, but very well worth it. And I hope that good things are going to come out of it in the future. It's not going to take one trip. It's going to take many. But as long as we keep our pedal to the metal, I think we're going to be okay. So I did that. And I also attended the RTA Agency Commission meeting, and there's nothing to report out. On my governing body announcements, I thank you, Councilmember Stone, for inviting me to the Colony meeting with you and staff. That was wonderful. I attended almost everything that everybody else did, including the Coffee with the City. That accompanied me was Councilmember DeForest, the Murrieta Police Department Citizens Academy, another great way. I'd like to go in and welcome them, so that was fun. And let me tell you, by the time I'd been up at 3 in the morning, got back, ran a soccer practice, and went there, I was exhausted. But I appreciate them letting me come and say hello. The flood control, so Murrieta 2B Creek Flood Control, it's an amazing project, and it's going to be a place for recreation and butterflies, and it's going to be fabulous. I just needed to get into Murrieta. So we're hoping for that to move a little quicker than government normally does. But it is a program that is going to save lives should that great flood ever come back again. That concludes my report. At this time, we're going to go to public comments, non-agendized items. Any person may address the governing body on any subject pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies on any matters not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Again, this is for public comments on non-agenda items. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have Amy Edgeworth.
Hi, Amy.
All right, what do you get when you cross the post office, World War I, and a 1927 train car? You get Murrieta's history in motion and a tea party with locomotion. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and neighbors. I'm Amy Edgeworth, founder and CEO of the Pearl Center for Creative Arts and chief engineer of the Murrieta Train Project. And yes, I am actually bringing a real train car to Murrieta. And we're transforming it into a living museum, a storytelling space, an art gallery, a family history hub, a cultural arts center by any name. And to celebrate and help fund the next step, we're hosting our 3rd annual Lace and Locomotives Twilight Tea Party, themed this year around the Roaring 20s at the Murrieta Hot Springs Resort on Sunday, October 5th from 5 to 8 p.m. Now, if you're wondering why we're stepping out of our Victorian attire, it's for a good reason. Our train car is from 1927, and while Pearl, our namesake, was a true Victorian soul, she passed away from tuberculosis at just 24. But had she lived to see the 1920s, she would have loved the music, the fashion, and especially celebrating her health at the Murrieta Hot Springs. So this tea party honors the joy she didn't get to live and the legacy she still inspires. We'll be serving dishes inspired by Chinese-American restaurants that flourished near train depots and fed our workers. We're also proud to spotlight our community partner, Milvet. We will be collecting Campbell's soup for local veterans and families in need and sharing what Milvet is all about at our event. And honoring the stories and letters from World War I soldiers in a special curated exhibit. Because honoring veterans runs deep in my family. My grandpa and my stepdad both served. And our family's commitment to service goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War, where my ancestor, Deborah Sampson, disguised herself as a man to fight for 17 months in the American Revolution. And that was in 1783. In 2021, she was honored with the bipartisan Deborah Sampson Act, a federal law expanding and improving access to VA care and benefits for women veterans. Her courage inspires me and others because telling untold stories is what this project is all about. So where are we now? Right now, we need to raise $10,000 for our city development fee. Once we do, we can file our site plan, begin site preparation, place the refurbished train car at its new home, and within a year, open the doors. When those doors open, Murrieta will gain a train museum, a storytelling center, an art space, and a 3rd space for real community connection. And it's been a bit of its own history in the making to get here. In year 1, we built awareness and shopped for a train car and got a train car. In year 2, we refined the vision, sought a place to park our train, and offered more programs to the community. Now, in year 3, we've begun restoration on the train car, brought more art into more classrooms and neighborhoods, and partnered with nonprofits in this community. Was it just 2 minutes?
No, that was 3.
Oh gosh, I lost track of time. Well, thank you very much.
I know. Madam City Clerk, is there any further public comment?
That concludes public comments.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motions. Are there any requests from City Council to pull any consent calendar item for discussion or abstain from voting? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on the consent calendar?
Seeing none.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second? I have a motion by Councilmember Holliday and a second by Councilmember DeForest. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 4-0.
Thank you very much. We are going to move on to our public hearing. We're going to move on to item number 9, introduction of ordinance authorizing a development agreement between the City of Murrieta and Domagonium Barton Properties LLC and Tress Australias LLC related to the development of the Triangle. We will now move to the public hearing. Are any council members who would like to recuse themselves from this item? Seeing none, staff, welcome. Hello, Mr. Sancharansu. May we have your report?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So there we go. So I would call this another momentous step in seeing the development of the Triangle happen. So just to give you some background, in case you've forgotten. So in 1990, the County of Riverside approved specific plan number 276, which at that time was named the Murrieta Springs Mall. It envisioned an indoor mall retail center at approximately 1.76 million square feet. The county also adopted an environmental impact report. You can see the breakdown of the uses on the right, which actually belonged to amendment number 1, which is when the city rebranded or the development was rebranded as the Triangle. The City Council approved a specific plan amendment in 2013. It switched from an indoor mall to an outdoor mall, and the City Council also approved what we call a subsequent environmental impact report, which essentially is an update to what the county did in 1990. So just to reorient you to the property, it's located at the intersection of the 15 and I-215 along Murrieta Hot Springs Road. In 2024, you may recall, we actually approved an updated project. We also updated the 2013 environmental impact report. We amended the specific plan again to facilitate the developer's construction plan, which I'll show you here in just a second, and that would provide approximately 279,000 square feet. And it also reparceled the approved map that was recorded back in the day. So we're currently tracking 23 new parcels, which essentially reconfigures what was originally approved. You can see some of the lines for the existing parcels on the screen. So this was the approved plan in 2024. The project entails a number of pads on Murrieta Hot Springs Road. It's anticipated that will be a combination of restaurants and retail. And then on the southern half of the project, you can see the larger anchors, which we refer to as the inline shops. And then on the kind of like my point in showing you this particular slide is to just remind you that there's also a phase 2 of the project. So the back half of the project, the site's about 63 acres in total. So the rear 20-ish acres are not going to be developed as part of the first phase. And so what staff is recommending tonight is that you consider and approve a development agreement, which is authorized by state law as well as the Murrieta Municipal Code, which essentially provides a legally binding contract between the city and the property owner and developer. And the goal is to provide certainty to the developer on land use regulations, permitted uses, densities, other development standards, as well as secure public benefits and infrastructure. And then it is approved by ordinance after public hearings. The Planning Commission at their meeting in August recommended approval, and then of course you have their recommendation before you this evening. So in terms of the agreement, it's pretty basic at this time. It does have a 10-year period of approval, which we call the vesting period. So it provides the developer with a 10-year time frame to develop the project. The development agreement proposes assistance in completing off-site land acquisition, which I'll explain on a couple more slides for street improvements. That particular aspect of the development agreement is addressed in sections 3.8 and 3.9. And then there's also a provision which would allow the property owner to convert existing billboards that are located on the site. There are 2 of them, subject to a relocation agreement. That's in section 5 of the development agreement. You may recall we did something similar with Lamar Outdoor Advertising recently. And then there's also a provision for development impact fee credits, which is actually part of our normal development process, but it's also outlined in the development agreement, section 4.2. So other provisions you need to be aware of, the development agreement can be assigned or transferred. So for example, if the property owner brings on another development partner, they can use the development agreement as well. There's an annual monitoring requirement where we would come back before the city council every year and just update you on the progress that's been made in implementing the development agreement. And then there's also allowances for amendments, termination, default remedies, things you would normally see in a contract. And of course, there's a requirement for insurance and indemnification for the city in the event of any litigation against the city for implementing the development agreement. So I mentioned the street improvements. So part of the project involves the realignment of Sparkman Drive, which will eventually become Monroe Avenue, to align with the project driveway on the south side of Murrieta Hot Springs Road. So the particular parcel that's affected is outlined in green. And then the colors on this particular slide depict the additional land area that's needed to make sure that alignment with the driveway happens on the south side. And then the green area is denotes a temporary construction easement. So the city has included in the development agreement go back real quick, a provision to assist the developer with the acquisition of that offsite area if needed. And so the development agreement, I mentioned sections 3.8 and 3.9 address that. And then in terms of the billboard relocation agreement, you can see the 2 billboards on I-15, they're static billboards. The development agreement through the approval of a relocation agreement, which is not before you at this time, it'll come later, proposes that the billboards be upgraded to digital billboards. So, and there's a concept that we pulled from the Lamar agreement, just as an example of what it might look like. And then I wanted to also address the environmental aspect of the development agreement. It's always been an item that's featured as part of the environmental clearance for the project. I don't think you can see it, but there's a stack of documents over by the city clerk's area where we have the documents available if you'd care to inspect them. I don't recommend it. It's very boring. But you can see that the language was included in the addendum that I mentioned that was approved in 2024. So the recommendation from staff is to open the public hearing, receive any public comments, and then find that the action is consistent with the approved 2024 addendum, and then introduce and conduct the first reading of ordinance number 623-25 entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Murrieta approving development agreement 2024-00004 with Trace Australis LLC and Dominagoni Barton Properties LLC for the Shops at the Triangle project located on approximately 64 acres located on the south side of Murrieta Hot Springs Road between Interstate 15 and Interstate 215. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much for that in-depth report. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's any questions from council. Seeing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. Do we have any public comment?
Seeing no public testimony.
Thank you. I will now ask if there's any council deliberations. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'd like to call for a motion and a second. I have a motion by Councilmember Stone and a second by Councilmember DeForest. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously 4-0 with the introduction of ordinance number 623-25 entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Murrieta approving development agreement 2024-0004 with Tres Estrellas LLC and Dominigoni Barton Properties LLC for the Shops at Triangle project located on approximately 64.3 acres located on the south side of the Murrieta Hot Springs Road between Interstate 15 and Interstate 215 development agreement.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Let's get it built. We're moving on to item number 10, Municipal Code Amendment, MCA-2025-00011, consideration of a proposed ordinance revising Title 16 Development Code of the Murrieta Municipal Code by adding section 16.44.045 and amending section 16.08.010, 16.44.150, and 16.110.200, 020, my apologies, related to group homes, sober living homes, and residential care facilities. We're going to move on to the public hearing. Are there any council members who would like to recuse themselves from this item? Seeing none, welcome back, Mr. Chantaransu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You didn't go far.
Not very far.
May we please have your report?
Yep, thank you. And thank you for reading the description of the item. So just to start with some background, we're here tonight to talk about city's adoption of an ordinance that regulates what is commonly called sober living homes. Before I get into the details of what that entails, I wanted to tell you what we're not here to do. So just to help set the context. So one of the types of facilities that are closely related to sober living homes are called generally community care facilities. They're licensed by the state, by the Department of Health Care Services, or DHCS. The city has no oversight over these pursuant to the Health and Safety Code. And so with respect to the Health and Safety Code, state law establishes two things: whether or not unrelated persons are living together in alcohol or other drug recovery or treatment facility. Again, this is a licensed facility by the state that serves 6 or fewer persons shall be considered a residential use of the property. So essentially what that means is the city has no licensing or regulatory oversight over facilities that are licensed by the state. We treat them as single-family uses pursuant to the zoning code. So we're not here to talk about that kind of facility. What we are here to talk about, before I go there. So this is a general description of the state license designations for the type of care that the state licenses. So on the left-hand side, they've identified levels of care, or LOC, on the left, where typically that means there's some kind of managed care being provided by maybe a doctor or a licensed clinician or a therapist. So because of the nature of the care that's being provided, the state does provide oversight. So what we are here to talk about tonight are, again, what we call sober living homes. So this is housing for individuals in recovery. Residents are protected under state or federal law because they're going through treatment, or not treatment, but they're basically living together, trying to move through their sobriety and become sober. But during this time that they're may be considered addicted to drug or alcohol, they are considered to be disabled. And so there's no state licensing requirements, and cities are limited in applying zoning controls for reasons that I'll get into in just a minute. So because of the little oversight that cities have until recently, it's led to overcrowding, noise, transient populations, and neighborhood impacts. So the proposed ordinance that's before you this evening establishes some operational requirements that I think cities have been waiting for to be able to do for decades. So we can establish spacing requirements now, operational requirements, and occupancy standards for stable recovery housing. So just to give you some background on the topic, if you had the opportunity to do so, back in 2017, the Orange County Register published a report on what was called Rehab Riviera. And so the Orange County Register was going through and documenting all of the issues that having unlicensed sober living homes being clustered together in neighborhoods, how they were bad for the folks who were trying to go through a recovery process, and as well as bad for the neighborhoods they were located in. And so in 2017, and I pulled this screenshot from the Orange County Register website, there were approximately a dozen unlicensed sober living homes in Murrieta at the time. We think there's roughly the same number today. And again, we're talking about homes that are not required to be licensed by the state. So just to kind of reiterate the background that I just mentioned, in the Orange County Register news story, there was unregulated growth of sober living homes. It proliferated in Orange County, mostly coastal Orange County, and the Orange County Register reporting indicated that many operated like party houses. There was resident exploitation. Individuals in recovery were sometimes abandoned when insurance ran out, and it contributed to that city's homelessness. It was a profit-driven model. Operators earned, it was reported that they earned over $10,000 per month per resident, and they were using patient brokers to move residents around between licensed and unlicensed facilities. So in response, there were a number of legislative proposals which the state tried to implement, including revocation of licenses, registries, fines for patient brokering, banning what was called referral payments, and then a pilot health inspector hub in Costa Mesa. At the time, there weren't a lot of success stories because of the protection that I mentioned under state and federal law. So, such as the Fair Housing Act, again, folks who are going through recovery considered disabled, and then it prevented cities from regulating the use until last year, when the City of Costa Mesa's ordinance was upheld in a case known as the Ohio House versus the City of Costa Mesa. I think it took like 10 years for Costa Mesa to go through this litigious process, and finally was victorious, essentially. And since Costa Mesa's ordinance was upheld, we've identified about half a dozen other cities that have gone through and emulated Costa Mesa's approach. And so the findings of the court, I'm just trying to summarize these for you here, is that Costa Mesa's regulations benefited disabled individuals, allowing sober living homes certain permitted operations and more flexible options than non-disabled boarders would enjoy. And then the decision reaffirmed that cities could restrict clustering of sober living and group homes, impose spacing and permitting requirements, and then legally differentiated between disabled serving homes and other group living facilities, such as boarding homes or other types of halfway houses. And so the general provisions of Costa Mesa's ordinance, which we've incorporated into the draft that has been recommended by the Planning Commission, is that there's a use permit required for operation. There's oversight and compliance with city codes, such as the building code. There are eviction and notification procedures. So I mentioned that the Orange County Register article indicated that when insurance ran out, residents were being evicted. The requirements for eviction and notification procedures is meant to deter people who are coming out of those homes from being homeless. There are transportation requirements to be able to get people to maybe a bus depot or a train station so that they can, get to their last known residence. There is a prohibition on boarding homes in multifamily zones. And then there's also clarification of the definition of residential care homes, which I mentioned excludes group homes under the ordinance. We've had to modify some definitions, so that's what that bullet point clarifies. So the general provisions, continuing on with that, it protects disabled residents through safer and more stable environments. It reduces neighborhood conflicts and service strain. So the idea behind that is through spacing, which I'll talk about. It'll limit, ideally, the number of police and fire calls that have to respond to these homes that might be overly burdening a neighborhood. It aligns with fair housing laws, which is extremely important. The city's ordinance cannot violate state or federal housing law. while preserving public health, safety, and welfare. And it provides clear and enforceable operational rules. So if you've got a chance to go through the ordinance, there are a litany of requirements for understanding who the operator is. There's all kinds of ownership information that staff needs to be provided. There are all kinds of standards and regulations on how the home needs to operate. And we think one of the key features of the ordinance is a requirement for a good neighbor policy, which needs to be adopted as a result of the establishment of the home. And so talking about separation, so when we started out this process, staff was trying to be more in line with what Costa Mesa was doing. And as we researched what they had done, they essentially adopted a one home per block approach, which was upheld by the federal court decision. And so as we went through and did the analysis, we came up with some standards that resulted in a 50 or 850 foot separation between homes. Well, during the Planning Commission hearing, they implored staff to see if there were other ways to kind of increase that separation requirement. So what we did is we went back and we took a look at Costa Mesa's population density, which is basically persons per square mile. And so we found that population Costa Mesa's population is nearly the same as Murrieta's in half the size. So kind of using an approach that again emulates Costa Mesa, we are recommending at the Planning Commission's request an increase in the size from 500 feet in the single family zones and 850 feet in the RHR or the RR zone, to 1,000 feet. And again, it's based on the same kind of an approach with Costa Mesa, where they might have been looking at, I think Costa Mesa's spacing was 650 feet based on the one house per block. So we're almost doubling that requirement based on the size and population. And so just to generally cover the ordinance changes, so the sober living home regulations will be found in a new section, which is 1644-045, which is being added to the municipal code. It modifies 1644-150 to address other types of homes that are unrelated to sober homes. I mentioned different types of group homes which aren't defined as sober living, such as boarding houses and probationer homes. It updates the residential use tables, which are found in table 16.08-1 of the zoning code, and so that it clearly defines that sober living homes, or I think we call them group homes in the ordinance, are permitted uses in the residential zones. And then we remove the permitted uses in the multifamily zones, and then we also update the definitions, which are also spelled out in the ordinance. The one thing I wanted to bring to the council's attention is, because we're talking about housing for the disabled, that the city's reasonable accommodation ordinance applies. And so this is actually a requirement of state and federal laws. We have to allow for reasonable exceptions to zoning or land use rules when it's needed to provide equal housing opportunity. So even though we've adopted these, or if the city council adopts these standards, staff may still accept reasonable accommodation requests that would allow for a deviation from our rules. We'd have to handle that on a case-by-case basis. I couldn't tell you exactly, what we would or wouldn't do. It's really going to be context specific to the application that we receive. So. But I just wanted to make you aware that there is a possibility that even if standards are adopted, this process would allow a reduction or a modification of them. So with that general overview, staff's recommendation is that you open the public hearing and receive public comments, and then find that the proposed ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to the section listed, and then introduce and conduct the first reading of ordinance number 624-25, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council, City of Murrieta, to revise Title 16 of the Murrieta Municipal Code by adding section 1644.045 and amending sections 1608.010, 1644.150, and 16110-020 related to group homes, sober living homes, and residential care facilities. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer questions you might have.
Thank you very much. That was a very in-depth and understandable presentation, and I hope everybody listened deeply to what you were saying. I'm going to bring it back to council first for questions, and we'll start with Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Great presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate all the background. Just wanted a clarification on a couple of things. So licensed versus unlicensed. What prompts someone to get a license versus not get a license?
I think it's the, excuse me, it's going to be the level of care that they offer. And so I have to imagine that impacts the amount of the fee that they're charging for a resident to stay there. So for a sober living home that's unlicensed or not required to be licensed for the state, at least in the Orange County stories that we were looking at, the $10,000 earmark, I guess, was for licensed care. So probably if you're not licensed, you're just, you're looking to move into a sober living home to gain support in your sobriety, it's probably less than that. So not really familiar with what the current maybe market, rates are for licensed versus unlicensed, but, follow the money.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we are only dealing with the unlicensed ones today.
Correct.
And without this ordinance, is there any limitation on how many unlicensed sober living homes can be in the city?
Well, so we do have a current ordinance that has a 500-foot separation, but after reviewing the language, it seems to be inconsistent with court rulings that have been issued. So now that we have a proposed ordinance in place, we're much more solid footing, given the justifications that we've raised. We didn't see any justifications in the current ordinance that provided for separation, for example.
Which could have made it unenforceable.
I didn't hear that, sorry.
Which could have made it unenforceable.
Correct, and it has none of the operational standards or the operator requirements that the current ordinance, proposed ordinance has.
So the goal of the ordinance isn't to banish sober living homes. It's a creation of the ordinance is to be able to have sober living homes and the residents who live in our city be able to coexist peacefully without infringing upon each other.
Yes, I think that's part of it, but the emphasis is on ensuring that the disabled folks who are going through this process have a decent and safe place to live, which is a requirement of the federal and state laws.
Federal and state laws. And you mentioned that there reasonable accommodations need to be made. Who decides that?
I do.
You get to do that.
So I get to review the application. There's a chapter in the municipal code that's related to the process and the procedures under which reasonable accommodations can be granted, and then of course my decision can be appealed.
To?
Planning Commission, I believe.
Appeal goes to Planning Commission?
Correct.
And if that decision is upheld, does it get appealed up to City Council?
It can be.
Can be. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Councilmember DeForest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, David, for bringing this policy forward. I think that it benefits all residents, disabled included, reducing impacts of parking, clustering, and noise reduction, so to enhance the quality of life for all. So thank you for bringing this forward. I just have one other question is, who will enforce this ordinance, and how will that be handled moving forward?
Certainly. So I think the large majority of the requirements are going to fall on my department. So I have code enforcement and building, for example. And then the planning department as well. So we have a process where the planners are going to be reviewing development standards, the operational standards, making sure that the operator complies. And then I imagine we'll also be folding in the police department, the fire department as well. For the fire marshal and making sure codes are being met in terms of any changes to the residents, and city attorney's office as well.
Thank you. So really protecting the disabled residents as well.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's all I have. I'd like to hear from the community.
Thank you. Before we get to there, I have a question for you. Oh, that's okay. No biggie.
Not in your own queue.
I'm not in my own queue, but I knew I was in my queue. It was in my head. There's a lot of things in my head. Okay. I do have one question. There are several of these facilities already in the city that are going undetected at this time, most of them. How are you going to locate them and make sure that they comply should this ordinance pass?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. The unlicensed homes, they do try to fly under the radar, and I think there's a stigma associated, with the type of service that they provide. But we'll have to, investigate through doing internet searches. I mentioned, I referred to the Orange County Register. They identified a number of sites in Murrieta that they were able to find. If residents believe that there's a type of home, operating in their neighborhood, then we'll be relying on them as well. So it'll between, staff investigation, feedback from the neighbors. That's the only thing that we can really hope for right now.
And is it true that should this ordinance pass, this revised ordinance pass to update it, that all in existence would then have to come into compliance regardless of when they open their doors? Is that correct?
That's correct. So any existing unlicensed sober living homes would be subject to the ordinance, and the ordinance provides them with up to a year to meet the city standards.
Okay, and then your department would then check on them regularly to make sure those requirements are being made within the time frame allowed.
That's correct. So once they register, there's an ongoing inspection and supervision process, if you will, where we're just checking to make sure that they're remaining in compliance with our city ordinance.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the city clerk, are there any public testimony?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Craig Harlan, representing a group of 4.
Welcome, Mr. Harlan. You will have a maximum of 6 minutes to speak. You don't have to run.
Wish they'd get this about 6 inches higher, right?
That's right from my side.
There you go. Ready to hit me? All right. Thank you, Mayor Warren, City Council, and staff for this opportunity to speak. And David, that was a fantastic presentation. We have all heard the saying, it's not about the situation, it's how you respond, right? Murrieta for years has prided itself with a reputation for being a quiet bedroom community. As we know, there have certainly been challenges lately to that reputation. Examples include the Sacramento housing initiatives where the council pivoted to add city building design guidelines to protect our community look and feel. The increased traffic from new housing, where council recently visited Sacramento to request our fair share of road improvement funding. And near and dear to Lisa, the school board purchase of property on the west side with no resident notification, where the city stepped in and applied common sense for a better solution. Lori, Lisa, and Cindy, under your mayoral leadership, I applaud you with responding to these situations with a mindset to seek solutions to best preserve our quiet residential bedroom communities. Thank you. So that said, our residential areas are once again under siege with ongoing corporate and LLC recovery center homes being placed in our neighborhoods with and without city awareness, where currently we apparently have minimal to no ordinances in place to protect patients, our residents, and the community. The time is now, tonight, to respond to this situation. I fully support the Costa Mesa ordinance proposal for recovery homes to ensure both the best possible care for those in need as well as accounting for the needs of the surrounding neighbors and environment. Residents in my neighborhood recently discovered that a recovery home is now doing business on one of our residential streets that apparently even the city knew nothing about. So if you're one of my neighbors, please raise your hand so the folks can see who's here. This Costa Mesa ordinance, if adopted, will address the key concerns that we now have with the recovery house that we have, that while in my neighborhood today, could be in yours tomorrow. Without this ordinance, others will be living our current nightmare. For example, safety. Parents are now restricting where kids can and cannot go. Residents are busy purchasing and installing security cameras, and others, sadly, are looking to relocate. Traffic and parking. This home now has 10 to 15 cars parked continuously and traveling consistently on the street, where we now have had several close calls with vehicle collisions due to impaired visibility and traffic congestion due to the recovery home. Security. We have no idea what is going on in the house, who is there, How many people, any supervision, who to call, nothing. Good neighbor policy, as David alluded to. This business opened up overnight with only a pending license, we have been told. They shut the front door in the face of code enforcement, and they continue to operate with total random disregard for the council, for the city, and for the residents. Did I also mention this house also has a licensed child daycare facility located directly behind it? They share a backyard wall. As I stated, I am fully in support of the Costa Mesa ordinance and would ask for one addition. There is verbiage in today's amendment, all 384 pages, thank you, it was fun to read, for parole and probation homes to not be located within 1,000 feet of schools, daycare centers, parks, and on and off-site alcohol businesses. We should be consistent with language and ordinances for all homes, including recovery homes with this separation, should be an easy common sense addition. Make the 1,000-foot separation for recovery homes as well. You've followed everything Sacramento's asked for. This shouldn't be an issue. While we empathize with those in recovery, our children's safety must be a top priority. A recovery center next to a daycare feels like and is an avoidable conflict. I also question the process that allowed this facility, and my neighbors, if you please raise your hand on this for me. We question the process that allowed this facility in our neighborhood to open and stay opened with what we are told is a pending license only. Our neighborhood proactively notified the city of what we observed in our neighborhood. We are aware the code enforcement was denied entry and had the door shut on them during their one visit. Outside of that, we're really in the dark. We would really appreciate the statement from the city. I realize it's not on the agenda tonight, but down the road, we would really appreciate a statement from the city for where we stand now with this home. Please meet us halfway with communication is our ask. Right, neighbors? Right. So, in closing, my wish and hope is that your neighborhood does not have to undergo the trauma and stress that our neighborhood has been under given the lack of local ordinances, city oversight, communication, and controls that are not in place at this time to safeguard what is left of our residential bedroom communities. The time is now, today, to protect our children, community, and those in need of recovery assistance. Do the right thing tonight, adopt the Costa Mesa ordinance, and please include a stipulation that these recovery homes cannot be located in close proximity to schools, daycare centers, alcohol establishments. Establish that 1,000-foot buffer zone. In closing, Cindy, Lisa, Lori, and Ron, I know I speak for my neighbors and for a whole lot of folks that couldn't be here tonight, that we do appreciate the time and hard work you all do for our residents and community. So thank you for listening, for consideration, and let's make the city better, shall we? Thank you.
Kara Barrett.
Welcome, Ms. Barrett. You'll have 3 minutes.
So good evening. I'm going to do my best to keep my emotions in check because I'm very, very upset and concerned mother. It's already starting. Sorry. And I understand that he's telling me that it's a state problem, but it's in our city, so it's our problem because we're in the city. So it's now your guys' problem because you're part of the city. So as Craig just said, they recently opened a residential inpatient drug and alcohol rehabilitation center. It's on our street. This facility, as it clearly has marketed itself on its website, is a detoxification and inpatient rehab center. So it's meaning that patients are actively detoxing from drugs and alcohol just steps away from young children and families. Sounds like a great idea. Let me be clear, I'm not opposing recovery efforts. People deserve access to treatment and support, but where we place these facilities matter. That's just plain and simple. It just matters. You know, I looked through all of the municipal codes and I understand there's very slippery slope of what's named what and what. Anyway, what I found was in the Murrieta Municipal Code, the 1644150 residential accessory uses and structures, there's a conditional use permit that was required for this type of facility. That never happened. The code also requires that the public hearing under chapter 16.52, that also never happened. It requires a public hearing. That didn't happen. The code also states that evaluating the proposed rooming and boarding house or sober living home. It must be compatible with surrounding uses and cannot result in harm to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. These codes are in place to protect us as a neighborhood, and it's been ignored. So plain, it just seems very black and white to me, but what do I know? Additionally, unlike any commercial sites, these residential homes lack security features like controlled access and monitoring. This creates real risk and anxiety for our families. Our neighborhood also has a bunch of retired veterans and with PTSD who are now having unpredictable activity. They're having PTSD for all these things that they don't know what's going to happen, and all their fears are being triggered. And most concerning, as Craig mentioned, the rehab center is located directly beside a licensed in-home daycare center. It's also a few feet away from where one of our public school bus stops is, so kids are constantly walking past this home, including my own. Which are now no longer allowed to ride their bike there. It's just wonderful. And, all in all, I just don't think that that's a good spot to have this active detox center located. Again, great that they want recovery, but I think it just matters where these are located, and they're placed in places that are properly infrastructured and they have safeguards and not in the middle of a family residence. And I just urge you guys to help protect our kids and our families. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Bridget Moore.
Welcome, Mrs. Moore. I will remind you, you also have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's nice to see Mayor Warren in the head seat. My name is Bridget Moore, and I serve on the Wildomar City Council. I just want to thank you for your thoughtful work that you're doing on the sober living home ordinance. As you know, these issues don't stop at the city borders. What happens in Murrieta also impacts Wildomar and the surrounding communities. And I truly appreciate that you're taking a balanced approach, respecting the rights of those in recovery while also protecting the character and safety of your neighborhoods. I simply want to commend your leadership and thank you for setting a positive example for our region.
Andrew Wertheim.
Welcome, sir. You will also have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Wertheim. I think I'm neighbors with them as well and concerned about the same facility. I very much support the ordinance. Please, please do something about these facilities. I'm worried about my family and their safety. One concern that I have is about the debate between licensed and unlicensed. I'm concerned that the facility we're talking about has a license. It looks like on the website that it's licensed through DHS. That's concerning. So yes, please pass this ordinance, but please do more because if that's the case, then I'm worried it won't solve the problem. I was reading the ordinances and everything, and it was beautifully written. I really enjoyed reading it, to be honest. A couple of concerns or suggestions. One thing I really liked about things is having a house manager there 24 hours a day to try to, make sure everybody is acting appropriately. Fantastic. Can we please make sure that the house managers are monitored in some way so we know where they're there? Can we please make sure they're not criminals? It looks to me like felons are allowed to be house managers, or licensed sex offenders, or arsonists. Sure, maybe they didn't burn a house down until 7 or 10 years ago, but can we please not let any criminals be in charge? Same thing for the owners. Can we please not have any criminal owners in charge? If there's a way to beef up the ordinance more, I'd really appreciate it. Would it make sense for the owner of the house to also be the licensed facility? For instance, if the owner of the house is one LLC, but the state license is a different LLC, that seems weird to me. It should be the same owner of the property and who has the license as well. So if that can be considered, I really appreciate it. And, I understand that FHAA, FEHA, the Lanterman Act, they want the disabled to have a safe place to live and grow and thrive. Can we at least think about, is the goal for them to have a residential house, not necessarily a residential community? Is there a different place in the city where they can still have a residential house to feel safe away from children? I don't want to have dangerous people near my children. I don't want to worry about shards of broken car in the streets as my kids walk down the street, or about needles being in the street as my kids are riding their bike. So thank you for doing this. Please pass the ordinance, but also please do more with the state so that if it's licensed, there's some sort of zoning control where we as citizens have the right to say no. Thank you very much.
Ash Sudarsan.
I'll pass. Andrew spoke on my behalf. Okay, thank you very much.
Flavio File.
Hello, sir. I will give you up to 6 minutes to speak.
Oh, really? 6?
Yeah, 6.
That's pretty good.
And then I'm going to cut you off.
6 is better than 3.
Yeah. It says you are speaking on behalf of a group of 4 or more. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor Warren and City Council members, for this great opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Flavio File, and I've been a resident of Murrieta for 20 plus years. I'm going to echo a lot of Craig's comments here tonight, that I fully support the Costa Mesa ordinance proposal to provide guardrails and accountability for recovery homes. And while ensuring that both the community and the residents of this house are both safe. I feel the Costa Mesa ordinance addresses key concerns areas such as safety, traffic, security, parking, house operational requirements, rules of conduct, good neighbor practices and policies. But what I really feel that it's missing, however, are caveats to address recovery homes that are located next to schools, daycare centers, parks, and on and off-site alcohol businesses. For example, as we have mentioned here today, there's an unlicensed recovery home that recently opened up that we talked about before, catty corner from my house, that is located directly behind, sharing the same fence as this house in question here tonight. This recovery home is operating outside of all the Costa Mesa ordinances currently. I truly believe that sober homes should comply with strict standards to ensure neighborhoods remain residential, not commercialized recovery hubs. That's my true opinion on this. As an unlicensed home bypasses these rules, they fly under the radar, as we talked about here tonight, operating without oversight or accountability. As my previous speakers have mentioned, we don't even know who are living inside this home right now, this specific house. I've driven at night by the house, which is right behind my house, and I've seen between 12 and 14 cars parked in front of the house. If we do our math, we must have at least 10 plus people living there right now. So that's the current situation. This is not just a technicality, right? It risks creating a recovery campus effect, as seen in cities like Costa Mesa, as we've talked a few times here tonight, where unregulated sober homes led to overcrowding, disrupted communities, noise, safety concerns, and even emergency calls for overdoses. I think this is a very serious business here tonight, what we're talking about. Our neighborhood, known for its family-friendly environment, cannot afford these disruptions. While we empathize with those in recovery, I don't think that's what it's in question here right now. Facilities like this can attract transient visitors, can affect the very mobile demographic moving inside and outside of the house. And individuals struggling with relapse, right? So that could be an issue to our neighborhood, which is an interesting neighborhood, which is a cul-de-sac inside of a cul-de-sac, so very precious place. In addition, unlicensed homes usually fail to provide proper care for residents. We've talked about this tonight. Endangering vulnerable individuals and increasing the likelihood of issues spilling to our streets. The impacts are already felt. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, we've seen a lot of cars in front of the house. We don't know who is living there, who's in and out. No supervision. So there's a lot of unknowns right now about that house. Again, for a neighborhood with a daycare where young children are cared for daily, this proximity raises red flags. Parents dropping off their kids are understandably worried about safety risks from unfamiliar visitors to potential emergencies. Our children's safety must be paramount, and a recovery center right next, sharing the same fence to a place like that, I believe it's a conflict ready to happen. I have no doubt that's a conflict ready to happen. I also, as Craig has mentioned, question the process that allowed this facility to open without public notice or community input. Murrieta zoning laws prioritize the character of single-family neighborhoods, a very special community. We love this place. It's a gem of the valley. I love that logo, right? So, so yet this center operates in a home indistinguishable from ours. We're not asking to shut down the recovery efforts. All we're asking for is put in the provisions that they would have to be away from daycares, schools, and alcohol establishments. So as a final note, thank you for your leadership here tonight. I think you're doing a great job, and for prioritizing the well-being of our community. Thank you.
That concludes public testimony, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, everyone that came out and spoke. I'm going to bring it back to council for comments and deliberation, and we're going to start with Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your input. It's important that council hears you, also our city manager and our staff. But there has to be some additional clarification here this evening. I'm going to propose a couple of questions to our city attorney. And Madam City Attorney, based on the consensus, can we amend our motion here this evening to put in 1,000 feet? You cannot put a sober living home within 1,000 feet of a school, daycare, park, or alcohol establishment.
Unfortunately, we cannot. Under the state law, we have to treat them like a single-family home.
That's really important that you hear this. In addition, can we enforce a background check for a house manager?
David, is that anything you looked into? That's not something I've looked into. But I mean, California has a lot of really strict laws about looking into criminal backgrounds, so I would think not. But we haven't looked into that.
So the ordinance, again, for the unlicensed facilities, the unregulated facilities, there are a number of, it's not a background check, but the operator is required to supply information about the house manager and whether or not they've been convicted of a number of crimes. I think arson is one of them.
How about a registered sex offender?
Registered sex offender is another one, any kind of a felony. So it's not a background check per se, but it's information that we're getting from the operator. And then if we find that any of that information is misleading or false, the registration can be revoked.
Okay, thank you so much. With regards to, David, with regards to monitoring the facility, is it a maximum of 6 people living in a sober home?
Correct.
And do we do...
Plus the house manager.
Of course. Do we do any sort of enforcement where code enforcement would show up just to make sure that they're in compliance?
So that would be part of the monitoring process. So when our ordinance specifically limits the unlicensed facilities to 6 or fewer, plus the house manager. So part of our process would be to monitor the number of residents that they have in the facility, and so if they're not in compliance, it would be grounds for a revocation.
Right. And are we currently enforcing that?
So not for state licensed facilities because we don't have any jurisdiction over that.
Right, but unlicensed facilities, are we enforcing that?
It's not in the ordinance right now.
I'm not aware that we have, again, there's no standards that we're operating by now, so we don't have the registration process to go through with under the current ordinance, so.
Okay, and Madam City Attorney, by law, we don't have to do a community notice or community input with regards to a sober home?
By law, we're prohibited.
Okay.
From doing.
But for, under the proposed ordinance, we would notify residents within 500 feet. Again, we're talking about the unlicensed facilities.
Thank you for the clarification. Let's talk about the vehicles. I'm assuming even with the high-density development, we cannot monitor how many vehicles are parked on the street. So I'm assuming the same case with a sober living home in the city of Murrieta.
You're correct. However, there are requirements that driveways and garages be kept available for resident parking. We currently don't have that for the multifamily developments that you mentioned.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, it was really important that I ask these pertinent questions so you understand the state law. We have to enforce the law. That's our role as council. If you want change, you have to connect with your Senator Kelly C. Arto or your Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez. Those two are the ones that can affect change at the state level. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to ask these few questions.
No problem, my pleasure. Councilmember DeForest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank the community. Again, we haven't had this many people in the audience in a long time, so I hate that it's for some plight that you're having and some challenges that you're having, but we have heard you. I greatly appreciate you all being here tonight and taking time out of your evening to come speak to us. So thank you for that. David, this is a question back to you. With Costa Mesa's ordinance, and we kind of seem to be following that and utilizing that for a template, could you see if we want a healthy community for all, our disabled as well as, our regular community members, but could we shorten our compliance from 1 year to 6 months or 4 months, or is that a state regulation that we need to abide by?
It's not, excuse me, it's not a state regulation, but if you think of the amount of time that we need to identify these homes and do outreach and walk them through an application process, which we haven't implemented before, but we have in other areas like our massage ordinance and very similar requirements. So a year, probably sounds like maybe a little more generous, but where we don't want to find ourselves is at the end of the compliance period where like maybe staff is needing more time to go through the material and helping the applicants, then we don't want to force, so to speak, an applicant into being in violation while they're submitting an application to us, while they're trying to comply with the city's regulations. That would be my only concern.
Not putting burden on staff, I understand that, because all of these departments are very taxed as it is, but I would like to see a 6 month, because if you're being impacted and the residents are being impacted,
of course.
And we don't want to see that happen. So for our quality of life and for the quality and healthy community, if we could bring that to 6 months, if my fellow colleagues were be so agreeable. I hate to put that on your back, and maybe I'll piggyback over to our city manager as you are chuckling at my ask. So.
Yeah, so I think, again, the primary concern isn't the staff time dedicated to processing this. It's the time that it might take an applicant who wants to voluntarily comply to comply. So if they come to realize, let's say they're an existing non-state licensed sober living home, so they're subject to this ordinance, and they say, didn't know about these rules, they just came up, what do we need to do? And if they need to relocate, for instance, I think it's the time that it might take to accomplish some of that we're more concerned about. So I would only suggest that if we shorten the time frame, that we do something to provide the director the ability that if we're working in good faith to comply, that we can extend it for extenuating circumstances. You know, I don't know if they own the house, if they're renting the house, but there's some pretty big things involved in relocating any business.
Thank you for that, and I would agree to that as well, giving David, once again, authority for extenuating circumstances. So thank you so much for entertaining that for me. I greatly appreciate it, Madam Mayor.
I'm going to piggyback on that before I call on you, Councilmember Holliday. Could we amend the motion when we have a motion to accept as is, change that timeline to 6 months, not to exceed a 1-year period? So we would like it done in 6 months, but under circumstances that they are trying to comply, they could have up to 1 year. Would that be agreeable? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just, is it okay if I make that motion? I have a motion on the floor from Lori right now. So Lori, did you want to? It doesn't have a second, so without a second.
Let me ask my question
Go
first,
ahead,
if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind.
All right, I'm going to pretend like right now we're not seeing anything. Go ahead.
So you mentioned from Councilmember Stone's questions that there are going to be not background checks, but information provided by the owner of the facility on about the house manager, whether they're sex offenders, arsonists, et cetera. And you said that their permit would be revoked if they provided false information. But what if they provide accurate information? What happens?
Then I have the ability to consider those factors and whether or not to grant or deny the license.
So if someone says, the house manager is going to be a sex offender, you have the ability under state law and federal law to say you can't have that person as a house manager, you just can't have a permit.
Well, I think, the evaluation that I have to go through, again, is in deference to finding home or housing for the disabled. So to the extent that I believe that information is going to result in a negative effect in granting a sober living home operational permit, like I'll give you an example. So if one of the employees, house manager has a repeated number of offenses convicted for drug offenses. I mean, there would be no reason why to justify granting that permit. So I think it's going to be very circumstantial. And so those are the kinds of things we'll have to consider when we're reviewing those licenses.
Okay, thank you for that. And one of the speakers had mentioned something about controlled access with monitoring. Is that a condition that we're allowed to impose?
There's not a standard in the ordinance currently. That's why you have the house monitor, is so that that person is there to monitor and supervise the residents. So for their, again, to further the housing for the disabled, so they're not creating issues or circumstances that wouldn't be good practice for folks who are living in recovery.
Well, obviously, a house manager's not going to be there 24/7.
They're supposed
to. I think they would be.
They have to be on site 24/7?
Yep, to be on site.
Yeah.
What if they want to go to the grocery store?
Well, then there's got to be a backup.
So they have to have 2 house managers?
Well, they could have folks coming in, for a brief period or, vacation, sick days, I mean, however you want to phrase it, but they need to make sure there's a house manager functioning on the property.
And that person, the backup house manager, has to be given to the city as well?
Correct.
Okay. And you said if any of these rules are broken, that we're going to be monitoring it and that we have the opportunity to revoke their permit.
Correct.
Is it going to be, I mean, I haven't read through the whole ordinance like some of the speakers have. Does the ordinance say how many times they can break some of the rules before revocation, or is that entirely up to your discretion?
Nope, it's going to be up to staff discretion.
Staff discretion. So it could be first time and they're out. And if a particular facility receives numerous complaints because they're breaking these rules, that would go towards that revocation.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. And I do want to clarify that these are city permitted facilities that are unlicensed by the state, not state licensed facilities.
Correct. We have no jurisdiction over the state license.
Licenses, and some people have said licenses, but this is a city permit that they're getting, that they have to apply for and get once this new ordinance is put into place if we enact it tonight.
Correct.
And what happens if there are currently two homes within 1,000 feet of each other?
So there is a provision for grandfathering. Let me see if I can find it quickly.
No. There are no grandfathering, I was told.
I read through most of it. I didn't see that in there.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that provision in there. I mean, if you want to continue on, I can do a word search.
So, from your memory, is it that if there are two homes that are within 1,000 feet, they could be grandfathered in until one lost its permit?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I will double check though.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't think we have that many in town, but if we happen to have one that violated the ordinance right off the bat, you're going to draw straws and tell somebody they have to move?
Not likely.
Not likely. And I do also want to commend everyone that's here tonight. When we're dealing with things that affect our children, in my case, grandchildren, it gets very emotional. And when things get very emotional, sometimes the message we want to get across doesn't come across because of our emotions. And I want to applaud each and every one that spoke tonight and the rest of you that are here, that all your comments were very well thought out. Your points were made very well, despite the emotion behind this issue. So I really want to applaud you. I've seen far too many times since I've been involved with council working since 1996 that too often somebody will come up and just be so heated that their point never gets across because they're so angry or upset. So well done, very well done. I appreciate all of you coming out. And that is all the questions that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Now, I'm going to...
If I could just real quick,
sure.
I don't think the public hearing was closed.
No, it's not. I haven't closed it yet.
Usually when the public's done talking before you start deliberating and talking about
Well, I was just
amendments.
going by my script. And
I know it had a little.
All right, so I'm going to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay, now, my turn? Okay, thank you. Something you said, David, that concerns me greatly. You said grandfathering. I was under the understanding there was no grandfathering with this new or revised ordinance.
It's actually, so I'm looking at the language. It's at the end of section 1. It refers back to existing homes that might have, a lease period if they're leasing the property. So they'll have. If they have a written lease, then they'll be able to extend a grace period so that they can continue to find or relocate from the current location that they're operating, under due to undue financial hardship. And again, that's subject to the director's approval. Where you've got a property that is owned by a sober living group home, there's not going to be anything that we're going to be able to do, about that until they cease operating.
Okay, so for instance, there's one already operating that is housing 40 people. they would have to go under the new ordinance if it passes, correct?
Well, so I want to make a distinction. When you're talking about the operational standards that are being proposed, those would still apply. They still have to comply with the operational standards.
Okay. So
But in terms of like proximity, there's
Okay.
grace periods that are built into the ordinance that will allow them to continue operating for at least a certain
Okay, and
period of time.
the maximum of 6 is in the new ordinance, it's not in the current ordinance. That's why it's so important to get this, to understand that point, correct?
And all the operational standards that are being proposed tonight, those
Okay.
don't exist in the current ordinance.
Perfect. The other thing I wanted to ask you, one of the speakers mentioned that the license is under one name, LLC, and the facility is under another LLC. Could you explain that to me? I was a
Sure.
little baffled by that.
So what we find is that sometimes different partnerships will be set up to own property versus operate the facility. So in the ordinance, we tackle both of those issues. So we want all the information that we can get on who the owner is. And then we also ask for a litany of information about who the manager is. So if they happen to be the same group, that's fine. But even if they're two separate operating entities, even if they're the same person, we would basically enforce the ordinance against both entities.
Thank you.
So it doesn't matter.
I also want to commend the residents. Your thoughtfulness and how you came in tonight to address this issue was wonderful, respectful. You spoke from your heart. I understand. Our kids, our grandkids are important to us. Our lives, our quality of life is important to us. We did hear you. We are going to do everything we can within the state and with the rules that we can do things. That is my wish for this evening. Our goal is to protect both neighborhood quality of life and the rights of individuals in recovery. The ordinance strikes a balance between compliance with federal law and the expectations of our residents. That's what we're here to try and do tonight for you. I thank you for that. I thank you for coming out. We have one more. Councilmember Stone, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Forrest is in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was your name. Dr. DeForest.
Starting to blur up here.
It is.
Yeah, no worries. I'd just like to make a motion for municipal code amendment in its entirety. MCA code 25-0011 with the change to the 6 months for compliance with the exception of certain circumstances. And no longer than a year.
Okay, so I have an amended motion on the floor.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. So I'm going to first need you to call for a motion because it seemed that we had in the queue, Councilmember Stone had put in a motion with no second.
Okay.
But then we deviated from that and had further deliberation.
Okay.
So if I can clear that queue, and can you call for a motion in a second?
Okay.
And
I'll call for a motion on Councilmember Stone's motion. I need it.
No, you want to call for the motion.
I'm going to clear the queue because you
Okay.
never called for a motion.
Okay.
So we're clearing the queue, and right now, if you can call for a motion in a second, and electronically, we will do what we normally do.
Okay, I want to
Please.
call for a motion in a second.
All right.
Okay.
As amended.
Okay.
As amended.
As amended, so I have, so I'm looking at you for advice here.
So the motion is, now you can go ahead and state the motion, Lisa, if you
All
can
right.
do that, if it's different than the recommended action.
It is.
Okay.
I'd like to state the motion ordinance MCA 2025-0011 with the changes for 6 months for compliance with the exception of certain circumstances not to exceed 1 year.
Is that amenable to the seconder?
Is that amenable? It is. We have a first and a second, as stated. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously 4-0 as amended with the introduction of ordinance number 624-25 entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Murrieta, California, to revise Title 16 of the Murrieta Municipal Code by adding Section 16.44.045 and amending Sections 16.08.010, 16.44 16.150 and 16.110.020 related to group homes, sober living homes, and residential care facilities.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bearing with us while we got that right. I appreciate it. We're now going to move on to notifications. Madam City Clerk.
Notice is hereby given and application was filed by Espray LLC, a California limited liability company for tentative parcel map number 39214 to subdivide 26.325 gross acres for finance and conveyance purposes. Engineering staff have completed a review of the final map for conformance. Final parcel map PM 39214 conforms to the conditions of approval and the tentative parcel map. The Mylars of the original final map are available for review at the engineering department counter Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Reconsideration, Madam City Clerk.
Any council member who voted on the prevailing side of the original motion may move a reconsideration to consider new information or correct inadvertent errors on a non-public hearing item at the same or the next meeting. At this time, are there any requests from the City Council for reconsideration? Seeing none.
Thank you. Council members' requests to add or withdraw items to the future agenda. Madam City Clerk.
Now is the time for council member requests to add or withdraw items to future agendas. There will be no discussion on the request. A brief explanation of the request may be given. The merit of the items being requested may not be discussed or debated. Before I ask the City Council, Mr. City Manager, would you like to speak on any item?
Yes, thank you. Madam Mayor, at the last meeting, we had a request from Councilmember Stone concerning an item to object to the state's efforts to redistrict California in the upcoming election off cycle from the 10-year census. That did get the support of 2 additional council members. However, noting that bills that were going to be passed to set that in motion were actually, I think they were passed a week ago last Friday. So we did consult the state legislative delegates, the subcommittee that agreed to write a letter objecting to those bills. That has been done. I believe that may mitigate the need for this item to come back. So if there's no objection from Councilmember Stone or any other council members, we can withdraw that item.
Yes, sir. You may withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any council requests? Seeing none.
Thank you very much. At this time, with no further business, I'd like to say we are adjourned.